Hello everybody and welcome to Rest and Reason. I'm RP the Red Panda and today we're going to be looking at Sushi Go Party. Now this is a very special game because it actually gets my award for Fixer Upper. Yep, Fixer Upper games are games that I personally think need just small tweaks to make them a better game. Let's go ahead and get into Sushi Go Party. Now, Sushi Go Party is a game that feels like you and your friends just ordered a big menu of sushi, and it's all separated on random platters because they didn't do a very good job separating them into categories. So you're passing the platters around, and you're grabbing a piece off at a time, and then it's going around again, and you're taking pieces off, and you're trying to get a meal of sushi together that you're really going to enjoy, that really works together as a meal. It feels like you're passing around a meal with friends and family. Now, in main mechanic, it has two main mechanics, and those are really the only mechanics in the game. One is pass drafting. If you're wondering about pass drafting, go ahead back to my video on Meanwhile at the Con. I put it right here, a link to it, and it's also down in the description. But this game is also a risk-reward game. Now, risk-reward games are exactly what they sound like. You are risking things to get rewards. If you risk less, you get less of a reward. If you risk more, you get more of a reward. I really love this game, but the risk-reward system was a little broken. Let me go ahead and show you a little bit about how this system was broken. You see, in the original game, you had these basic cards that are in every single menu, and they are the nigiri cards. This one is worth 1 point, that one is worth 2 points, and this last one is worth 3 points. Now, the problem with these cards is that you only have to play them to get that point. You don't have to risk anything. You play it and you get that many points. So this is objectively better than this, despite this not taking any extra risk. So this right here breaks the risk-reward system. There is no reason why this is less valuable than this by risk or reward. In addition, it doesn't just break it here, it breaks it across the entire game. Let me go ahead and show you this by looking at miso soup. Now, with miso soup, you get 3 points for playing it, just like with this nigiri. However, if somebody else plays at the same time as you get 0 points. 0. So, in my experience, I've found that about half the time you get 0 points, and half the time you get 3 points. So, this card really, risk-reward-wise, gets you about 1.5 points every time. Notice, that is worse than 2 of the nigiris where you risk nothing whatsoever. So, these right here show how this is a broken risk-reward system. For this reason, I have created this print-and-play version of the game with the risk-reward fixed. First off, with the nigiris, I made it so that you get points based off of balance. You want to get a lot of nigiris because they are kind of the center of this menu. So you're going to get 1 point for your largest group of nigiri, 2 points for your second largest group of nigiri, and 3 points for your smallest group of nigiri. So that means that you're going to have to balance them out. This makes it so that there is actual risk, because you might get stuck with only 1 point, and reward. You could get as much as 3 points for each one. Risk-reward. I also had to fix this card. In the original game, Wasabi, as it says, made your next nigiri 3 times as many points, which basically meant you almost always got at least 6 points for playing this card. Oftentimes, you would get 9 points for this card. 9 points for just 2 cards. That's 4.5 points with almost no risk. 0 risk. So it broke the risk-reward system. In my version, you just use this as a wild nigiri, which makes it so that you can balance out your nigiris, because remember, you score based off of which one's your highest and your lowest. So this would help you even those out, so hopefully you can get the most points for 3. Now, Edamame was another broken one, especially in larger player games. You put down a card, and if anybody else plays at least one of those, you're going to get 1 point per person who does that. The problem with this is you ended up having people getting 4 points almost every single time they played this card. 4 points! Remember, back when I was talking about balance, I was talking about 3 points being a lot of points. This is 4 points almost every time. I changed it so that instead you are racing to play it first. You want to be the first one to play it. If you are, you get 4 points. But if somebody else ties you for being the first to play it, or even multiple people tie you, all of you only get half of the points. So you'd only get 2 points. So you're still getting a reward, but you're risking something. And that's what I really enjoy about this new mechanic for this. Now, those were the really strange cards, the 3 major things that I changed. The other things that I changed all fall into 2 main categories. The rolls and the get this many and get this many points. The rolls are all about having the most of them and or reaching a certain threshold faster than somebody else. And the problem was I saw a lot of beginners play to try to get these points, and then they'd lose, and they'd lose, and they'd lose, because you'd only get 4 points for playing like 3 or 4 of these cards, so that you might get only 1 point per card. Whereas one of these other cards, you were getting 1 point easily. So why would you risk it? So I upped it to 7 points instead of 4, and 12 points instead of 6, to make it so that that risk reward actually rewards the person who fights to have the most of these. The last group that I did were have this many, get this many points. This is the vast majority of cards in this game. You can see how many there are. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's actually a couple more that I didn't have to change, but all of these just had small problems that didn't make sense. One of the ones I want to highlight is this one right here with the tofu. You can see how with the tofu, there is 1 point for 1 card, right? That seems to make sense. If you find just one of those, there's no risk to you playing one of those, so you should just get 1 point. In the original game, you got 2 points for playing that card, which made no sense. You took no risk. You shouldn't be getting a reward for not risking anything. So, just like with this card, I took all of these other cards and tried to balance them to make more sense. Originally, I gave this game a 3.75. Now, I specify that last number because this makes this game a bronze recliner. And a bronze recliner is something I would only suggest to very specific people. Maybe people who have really young kids or very beginner players or something. But with my changes, I raised this game to a 4.1, which brings it into a silver recliner, a general recommendation. Because I would, with this print and play change and fix, call this a very good game. A game that I would recommend to most people who own board games, especially people who want to have large parties with quite a few beginner board gamers. This is the game to get for that kind of a group. If you want something a little bit deeper that's still a beginner board game, I would actually suggest that you go buy Meanwhile at the Con. I've got it up here, and I've got it down here in the description. So go ahead and check that out. If you're looking for something that's a lot deeper and a lot more strategy, but still a pass and draft, I would say look at 7 Wonders or It's a Wonderful World. Both of those are good games that are a lot of fun and a lot more strategy because there's a lot more to the games. Thank you very much for joining us. I would like to know, what did you think of this little session on the fixer-upper games like Sushi Go? Do you want to see more of these? And if so, what games do you think maybe should be fixed next time? So go ahead and please join our sushi party, and let's go and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button, and hear more puns that make you cringe. And as always, thank you so much for joining us today. on Rest and Reason. So I wanted to do a quick postscript for all those interested in how I do this development work to make these changes to the game, and also specifically for anybody looking at me to hire as a developer. This is what I do. I make a spreadsheet, a literal spreadsheet, trying to calculate the odds and understand how the game ticks, and I collate and figure out whether or not, in this case, for example, I looked at the risk and the reward, I categorized them into colors, and then I used those colors to figure out how many points they should get on a scale from 1 to 4. So if you're green, you're usually getting 1 point. If you're yellow, you're usually getting 2, orange 3, and red 4, because the higher risk should get you the higher reward. So that was a quick postscript telling you a little bit about how I do development on board games.